that game was surely a whole lot of fun now, wasn't it? The Yankees just absolutely slug their way past the Baltimore Orioles, hitting 6 home runs in this game and 4 in the first inning, including going for the second time this year, back to back to back to open the game. Now, they did it on 3 pitches against Nestor Cortez in Milwaukee. Here it took them a lot more. It took them a whopping 5 pitches to go back to back to back against Kyle Gibson and the Baltimore Orioles. And Trent Grisham led off the game with a home run, followed by Aaron Judge, followed by Ben Rice. And then later in that inning, and by later I mean 2 batters later, Cody Bellinger hits a home run. So 4 of the first 5 batters go. And actually, here's the sequence, because I wrote this down because I was talking about it in the group chat or whatnot. Here's the sequence of the first 7 batters of the inning. Home run, home run, home run, out, home run, double. Although technically it was a triple when it was live, but it was a double turned into a double in an error, and double. That's how the Yankees opened up that game. So they absolutely got off to a monster start. We're up 5-0, then 6-0, and then they started to put this game away to a point where they were up 9-0, and then eventually 12-0 before they gave up this game. And Carlos Rodon had a perfect game for a while there. Ends up going 6 innings, allowing 2 hits, 1 walk, 2 earned runs, and 7 strikeouts, including a solo shot to Gunnar Henderson. But he looked excellent in this outing. He has continued his really strong play, and he actually leads Major League Baseball. If you heard this on the broadcast, very interestingly, he leads Major League Baseball in the volume, to the total number of scoreless innings pitched so far this season. And now you start to look at, that's 3 straight strong starts for Carlos Rodon now. He had those 6-0 against Tampa, 7-0 against Cleveland, and then 6-2 against Baltimore. And, the reality is, you can say what you want. It's not necessarily easy to keep that the energy level up where you want it to be when you're up 12-0, but he ends up having a little bit of struggles there in his final inning pitched, but looks really good in this game. And obviously this was one that was really not ever in doubt for the most part. It's just, the Yankees got up early, got him from the jump. Every Yankee starter had a hit in this game, with Austin Wells finally getting off the schneid there with a home run in the 9th inning to make sure everybody did. So the only player that did not have a hit in the game for the Yankees was J.C. Escara, who only got 1 at-bat in the game to replace Goldschmidt at first base. Late in that game, Judge and Goldschmidt both basically, hey, give him a couple extra innings off. You're winning by 1 million. So, but overall, a strong outing from pretty much everybody. We will keep an eye on the Jazz Chisholm injury. Left that game, looked a little off. Coming into his first at-bat, ends up getting a hit, ends up, tripling what we thought, ends up being a double and an error, but and immediately came out of the game holding his right side, and they called it just a flank injury. If the broadcast made fun of the terminology there, but. So he lasted his first at-bat, made a great play, and Oswald Peraza came in and played the rest of that game. But a lot of Yankees with multiple hits on the night. Aaron Judge, Ben Rice, 2 home runs. What a game from Ben Rice. Ben Rice went 3 for 5 with a hit by pitch, 2 home runs, 2 RBIs, 4 runs scored, and just continues to absolutely mash right now. He is flirting with 1,000 OPS again. He's at 998 right now. So he's flirting with 1,000 OPS. The only other guys right now that are over that on the Yankees are Aaron Judge, obviously, and then Trent Grisham, who led off the game with a home run. That was his only hit of the day, but was, again, really, really got the momentum going, and he's had an amazing season so far for the Yankees. Cody Bellinger, it was good to see him go 2 for 4 in this game with a couple of walks. He hits that home run in the first inning. Good drives and a couple of runs later in the game with a double. It was good to see him have some not only good at-bats, but hard contact, hard swings, and then get rewarded for it on the stat sheet as well. He's been struggling mightily, and it's been a conversation. And, before the game, trying to figure out who might get the day off, Cody Bellinger versus Jason Dominguez. Aaron Boone's end up going with Jason Dominguez here and giving Bellinger a shot, and he performed. And that was really, really encouraging to see. And then again, the Yankees bullpen continue to, they obviously didn't need a lot in some of these high leverage situations. And, Tyler Matzik, fought through a little bit in the ninth inning with the Yankees went into the ninth inning with a 15-2 lead. So, at that point, you're not thinking a lot about the bullpen. You're not really worried necessarily about Matzik's performance, but you got two strong innings out of Ian Hamilton in relief for Carlos Rodon. And, the Yankees were really, this was as close to that opening series type of game that we have seen from them. This is a performance that was obviously reminiscent of what they were able to do in that Milwaukee series, but it's really reminiscent of what we talked about the game the other day. I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to pull up the schedule. I think, was it yesterday's game or was it? Yeah, it was actually, because it wasn't a win. That's right. So, and here's why. Obviously, I knew they didn't win yesterday's game, but here's the point I'm going to make. When I talked about yesterday's, I guess I'm recording this on Tuesday night. When I talked about Monday's game, that fourth they lost to the Orioles. It was one of those scenarios where I said, if you're going to beat the Yankees, that is the formula for how the Yankees can lose baseball games. This game here on Tuesday was the formula for what it looks like when everything goes the Yankees' way. When you get that great start, when you have strong middle relief, when you have that offense clicking on all cylinders. Obviously, the home run ball played a huge part in this game, but so did the walks, so did the extra base hits that didn't leave the yard. It was a truly complete performance from the New York Yankees from top to bottom, and it's what led them to have this blowout victory. And, you start to, you see, the Orioles get on the board again a little bit late in that ninth inning off of Matzik. Didn't have the greatest final inning, but when you're up 13 runs, you're not really going to worry about it. And I also don't think Matzik's going to be a long-term piece of that bullpen. I think he's a piece for the now, but as some of the other guys start to come back from their injuries, I think he's going to be one of those guys that gets sent back down. But, I guess the final takeaways here were, this was the bounce back effort you were hoping for. And to me, I think you look at two pieces of the equation. You look at, obviously, the bats that were awesome. Ben Rice staying awesome. Judge, Bellinger, Trent Grisham, et cetera, et cetera. Some of the bench guys that came in, a couple hits for Peraza, a couple hits for Oswaldo. But I also look at this as probably the bigger picture of stacking great starts for Carlos Rodon. And if there's been a theme of the Bombers Beat podcast through the first month, it has been talking about starting pitching, and in particular, it's been talking about Carlos Rodon. I've probably talked about him more than any other pitcher on the team. And his success lately, which was obviously a complete 180 from the struggles he had earlier, is unbelievably encouraging. And I know Aaron Boone has talked a lot about how he felt that even in some of Rodon's poorer results in his starts, that he thought he pitched well and just made mistakes. Now, while I understand what Boone is trying to say in that scenario, where there's a guy that has something that's mechanically wrong, or his pitches are just not good enough, that's a red flag. That was not the case with Carlos Rodon. However, making mistakes is still part of pitching, and not making mistakes is part of good pitching. So you don't just get a complete pass because he was making mistakes. But he has been absolutely unbelievable in his last three starts. And again, the Yankees need it. They need him to be this type of pitcher. Again, maybe not the 7 innings, no runs type of things, but the 6 innings, 2 runs? Yeah, that's what they need from him. Because if he is playing in that and pitching at that level, with Max Fried pitching at the level that he is pitching at, And then you're going to get, working Clark Schmidt, eventually working Luis Heel. What do you get from back and forth from Will Warren? What do you get back and forth from Carlos Carrasco? Do you bring in another starter at some point this season? All of those things are going to play. But if you have those two guys at the top of the rotation that are able to be just dominant left-handed pitchers for you, the Yankees are going to be in pretty good shape. Now, starting pitchers are going to be up and down. You're not going to be great every start, but stacking quality starts like this together is encouraging. It's exciting to see, but more importantly, it is confidence building for a guy like Rodon. And the fact that this season didn't spiral when it looked like it was going to start to spiral for him after those first few starts of the year is incredibly encouraging. And again, the offense would have won this game for almost anybody, but let's not ignore how great Carlos Rodon was in this game. And I got to give him his props. I've been very hard on him on this podcast, and I felt that I was hard on him when it was deserved. But he was been very good in his last three starts. He was very good on Tuesday night, and the Yankees just had a complete effort in this 15-3 victory. Allowing him, with that ninth inning run, 3 hits, 3 total runs in this game. But that was a shellacking. That was a beatdown. That was a Milwaukee in the first series type of beatdown for the Yankees. And that's really encouraging to see them heading into the final game of this series where they will put Carlos Carrasco on the mound against Cade Povich for another 6:35 start time. And then they'll have an off day on Thursday before they head back home for a 6-game homestand against the Rays and the Padres before heading back out on the road again. So they're off this Thursday. They're off next Thursday. They were off last Thursday. So they're getting a lot of Thursday off days right now. But again, one more game, win the series, take your off day, and start that homestand. It'll be really encouraging to see them take that game. And we'll see what happens with Carlos Carrasco. Again, another pitcher that has been, a little bit up and down so far this year, but he's coming off of what his best start of the year at home against Toronto. I thought he was solid against Kansas City 2 starts ago, struggled against Tampa, struggled against Detroit and Arizona. But if they can get a solid start from him and this offense can continue to stay hot, Yankees are going to feel really good about where they stand. And look, we came into the season expecting the Orioles to be the top contender with the Yankees to win the American League East. And Baltimore's really struggling right now. And, they're 11-18. And their rotation is a problem. And it showed up in this game. And it's going to continue to show up. Even when they get some of their starters back healthy, don't know if it was good enough even then. So they're going to be in a really interesting situation. But you don't know what can happen if they can get hot, if they're going to add players. They're not the type of organization or ownership that really does a lot in season, so maybe they won't. But still, you want to bury potential top competition in your division, and you do that by just winning as many of these games and as many of these series against them earlier in the season. So hopefully it's one less team you have to worry about for not only the AL East, but for the AL wildcard picture if you don't happen to win the division as well. But we will see if they're able to win the series, take 2 of 3 before they head back home. We'll break it all down here on the Bombers Beat podcast tomorrow.